Go.
Right. So you guys were talking about, Tycho Brahe, and you were talking about the data and James Webb Space Telescope, and Andy made an off comment about how technology and a lot of things seem to be getting done better, so to speak, in the 1970s. And this reminded me of an issue.
Well, it was more we were prepared to take risks that were different.
Take risks, right. Okay, yeah. So one of the things that it reminded me of was that I have an experiment I desire to do where we actually find some older computers and set people down to doing certain tasks, like make a slideshow, write a report, browse a website in order to get the specific information, and make like a book report or something like that, right? And I reckon that with all the way that things log in and the way they buffer nowadays, and the way that apps behave and all this stuff, that actually we've passed the point of increasing efficiency by technologically improving. So it is totally true that the browsers these days can do way more things. It's also, from my experience, also true that clicking of the buttons and going to different pages longer than it did before. And it's not readily apparent to me that we are now making technology decisions that actually improve work efficiency, just sell something because it looks shinier. And of course, the whole point of computing is that you are computing, not that you are computing and it's so pretty you don't want to leave it and go on with your life, but that you do something and then you get done. And you see, if you do something and then you get done, you got more time to be into your regular life. Of course, the length of the day hasn't been what's changed. What's changed is the amount of time people have to actually spend talking to each other, eating dinner with each other, sitting together, catching up on each other's day. And I reckon that we have gone away from the whole goal of having automated toasters and automated refrigeration and automated washing machines to just creating stuff that is a total time suck because it requires all of this babysitting. And I know I'm not the first to think of this. However, I think it is actually now we're at a point where we could actually set this kind of thing up. And what would be really interesting is if it was an experiment where we had really good hardware from now, but running software from 10, 20, or even 30 years ago. You'd have to run virtual machines for a lot of it, but you don't have to. On some of it, it could still run. And I reckon that we would find out that the advancements in the software haven't really been advancements from the strict sense of the word. Certainly, Gmail is more advanced than it was back in the day, but is it actually faster to check your email? Is it actually faster to get on your calendar? What does it look like after a few days? And I'm thinking that we might be wasting trillions of dollars of productivity on software eye candy and features that really aren't that necessary. They keep the software programmer employed, but they don't necessarily actually improve the bottom line of that business. And I think that a good longitudinal study is needed. Already the effects of multitasking have been discussed and the damage that multitasking can do to a business's bottom line. But this is the next level of that. This is what happens when you're multitasking between platforms that are no longer lightning fast, but instead have more, it reminds me of the old days of the hard drives when they make that click sound. And the more intensive the program, the more clicks it would make. And when these buffering circles are going around, all I hear is those clicks from the hard drive, and the wasted cycles that's occurring. So I think that we have potentially passed that point of parity where the software is becoming heavier and heavier and the hardware is no longer actually doubling. That's a trick of how you plot the graph, but it's actually a logarithmic scale based on the supercomputer data that we're actually approaching an asymptote. And I think that it's probably an important study to do too, in terms of how many hundreds of billions of dollars are being wasted in people utilizing machines that are no longer as fast as they ought to be. And I think that it goes to a different whimsical issue, which is when people back in the 70s and 80s were putting together electronics, and there wasn't any software, they were putting together electronic solutions that would fix specific problems. And then those electronic solutions might be incredibly quick. Of course, unable to do much more because they're smart only to that degree. Well, that's good because it's safe. Right? There's no AI that could take over anything. There's no ethical quandary there there's no consciousness at all. It's just an electronic. And that electronic, provides a lot of jobs because it has to be fabricated. The one downside is that it produces a lot of waste when you throw away all those electronics. But if the chips were designed and have now programmable arrays that they didn't have back in the 70s, but if you went back to a more electronics-based society rather than the electronics all having microchips with software running on them, if it was pure electronics, I reckon that we could get a lot of things done really, really quickly and smarter. People will have to understand how electronics work. So these are the kinds of things I've been thinking about for the last few months. And I'm welcoming responses. Andy, just so you know, there is a lot of background noise on your end, but feel free to go ahead and respond.
I just fixed that, Ramon. The background noise. Well, look, I don't know a real lot about it, but as far as I know, with the Microsoft gear, you can still, their programs are all layered off DOS that they have today. And so one of the things I often think is they all need to be rewritten to a modern, what we know now. But, they've still got that old layering that goes back with Microsoft, as I understand it, to DOS. So I think that's one of the issues, and every now and then you get these little hiccups that occur, and partly because of that. But yeah, well, you see last week, you may recall, a few days ago, they had that digital shutdown, basically shut down a lot of airports in the world, shopping systems, computer systems. So yeah, look, but I think overall, for what I do, I find, it's a pretty efficient way of doing things. But you have to be aware that what we've got today is still vulnerable, like to outsiders, and like we tend to put a hell of a lot of faith in it, if you get what I mean by that. So yeah, that's my concern with it, is we put a lot of faith into these systems, and if they totally crashed, we'd be in a fair pickle. Yeah, that's my say on it at the moment.
Well, I think many of our base systems, we haven't had to change them for donkey's years. All the switching networks and what have you, probably written in the 60s and 70s in C. They work perfectly adequate on those small chips. Now, of course, we've got bigger chips. We can use more data on them. Whether the information we're actually using, or we're using it better at the end of it, is a different question. Then you have operating systems. Now, I know for a fact that you can in Unix or Linux, you can strip an operating system and just use maybe an operating system which will be functional, and it'll be absolutely smart, tiny, under a megabyte, well under a megabyte. However, you can have, a modern operating system has a lot of functionality. Now, if you have, as far as I can say, if you have a Windows system, um, um, we have a continual tribe of programmers working on it, who've got to do so-called improvements or write new systems. They've got to make it back compatible, so they normally leave the old system in there as well. And after a little while, 20 years of it, the Windows operating system is that it's just completely full of it's got software rot. You're using tying bits of one system up with another system. It's all like spaghetti. Nothing works together, and you end up with little bugs in it. So, but you see, that's what they do. They keep sending you updates and updates and updates. Now, with the Unix system, you will have a stable version, which is going to be stable for a guaranteed 5 years, and then it's up to you if you want to use any updates at all until the next stable supported version. So that's a much better strategy. Um, so yeah, I don't think it's necessarily using old technology, but it's there were no dummies back in the 70s. Certainly, they had a lot of working solutions that have they've just been solved now with brute force rather than being elegant algorithms, etc. So yeah, that's my view on that. Yep.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to add, if you look at a lot of the modern way it has a massive entertainment draw to it, and I think that's partly too because of the monetarization of the system, where like again, you talk about some of your bigger players, Microsoft and Apple and that. Well, of course, they're always looking to bring out something that's supposedly new to keep the Ponzi of the money system for them going ahead. That's the other thing I see with it. So I see a lot of it, it's got what I'd call an entertainment value or element to it, and partly to make it, it has a monetary value, continual.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the case. Yeah, you're just getting sold shite half the time. Yeah, that you're not never going to use, but it costs you an awful lot to have a license. So,
Yeah.
and plus all that
And getting
spy, they've
back
got
to
all the
what,
spyware stuck into it. So.
yeah, and getting back to what you were saying earlier, Nick, with the hardware and the programming and that. Well, I remember Ted one day we'll talk with Ted. He actually mentioned in the 60s and that, whereby you'd build the hardware, and you either had the hardware chasing the software, or the software was ahead of the hardware. So you always had, and then he talked about these earlier codes that they brought in that ended up, sort of standardising things to a fair degree to sort of start controlling that side of it a bit, whereby, you had so much changes with the whole lot. And
Yeah, it's full of spyware and all sorts now, shit that you really don't want, location systems and all that lot. Anyhow,
So
so
it's a bit like, Nick, I look at it like this, it's a bit like a modern car. You get in a modern car and all it does is beep at you, put your seatbelts on, do this, do that. It's the same sort of system. Now, is it a dumbed down system, or is it a put you into a false security type system that they've developed, So, yeah.
the market share system. But anyhow, bollocks to him. No, I don't think, yeah. No, I think we've got to keep with the new chips, the faster chips, and just make sure the system, the software we use isn't polluted like most of it is. Write your own.
Well, they're probably going to keep coming up with new chips and faster chips because of all the garbage that's in the software.
Well, that's right. That's right. It's a matter of using the existing chips properly. I agree. But anyhow, okay. Anyhow, so that's my view on that lot. All right, Andy. I think I'm going to call it a day for chatting.
No worries. All right, then, Nick. Catch you later. See you later,
Right,
Ramon.
cheers, mate. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Adios, guys. Bye.
We'll see you, Ramon.